Hey everybody, it's your friendly neighborhood DJ JazzHands here at AnimeSTL, and I got I got the awesome opportunity to sit down with the one, the only Chuck Huber. He's been the voice of so many awesome characters from Android 17 from Dragon Ball Z, and he's also been Emperor Pilaf. He's been Hiei from Yu Yu Hakusho, Hero, one of my favorite from Shin-Chan. He's been in a lot of stuff, and honestly, if you've watched anime, you've probably heard of him. It's nice, it's nice to meet you, Chuck.
Thank you. It's very nice to be here in my own hotel room.
Yes. We're sorry that we broke in, and we will untie you when you're done. But okay, so first question, let's just kind of dive right into it. Where did you grow up, and where did you go to school from?
I was born in Chicago and raised in Milwaukee, and then moved to Dallas, Fort Worth area, and then went back to Chicago for college and stayed there for the beginning of my career, and then moved back to Fort Worth by my family when I left Chicago, and currently live in Fort Worth. Okay,
cool. That's interesting. It's nice to kind of get that a little bit. Now, how did you get into voice acting? How did you fall into voice acting?
Yeah, I was at rehearsals one day. My buddy Brad Jackson came up and he was like, "Hey, man, you should go audition for this thing called Dragon Balls." And I was like, "Dragon Balls? That sounds like porn." And he was like, "No, it's Japanese anime." I was like, "Okay, it's definitely porn." And he was like, "No, it's cool. You should go audition." And so I went and auditioned and got the first role I got was Garlic Jr. I'm going to push you into the dead zone. So, short alien.
That's awesome. Like, complete fan overload right now.
All right, good.
But, okay, so you kind of got into voice acting that way, but I also, want to know, because you've been working on anime for so long, you've done it when it was first kind of coming out with the old Dragon Ball Z and everything, and then you've recently, done Dragon Ball Z Kai and then the new movies and stuff. So how has the dubbing process and the voice acting process changed from all the way back then to now? Because, it has to have changed, and just the overall getting the scripts and doing the rewrites for English and everything like that. Like, how has essentially the voice acting world changed since back then till now?
Yeah, one of the biggest changes is going from, we used to work off a tape and record to tape, and now, of course, it's all digital. So the video was digital, or video was tape. And then, like, the writers, they had videotapes with the episodes, and you had to write with the videotape and your little remote control to the VCR. And it was a lot slower process as opposed to the QuickTime videos. And I remember QuickTime videos were a thing, but they didn't want to convert. I was like, we should be converting all this to QuickTime so we could work off QuickTime. And they did eventually, like 2 years later, everything was into QuickTime. But I was like, we should have done that a long time ago. But yeah, that's probably the major change. Other than that, we've all gotten a lot better. Like when we re-recorded, when we did DBZ Kai, we went back and looked at, you'd see what you did previously, and you'd be like, "Oh God, I can't believe you let that through. That was terrible." And because we've all, excuse me, improved our skills since the beginning.
Okay, that's awesome, because I've always been curious about the overall changes and what has happened, in the industry, because I've, heard many times in radio that stuff has changed a lot, and so the process is it's fascinating. But speaking of Dragon Ball Z, so your first role was Garlic Jr. Right. And then how did you get the role of Emperor Pilaf, one of my favorite characters, and Android 17, another character that I absolutely love?
Yeah, those are both good characters. I got Android 17 was the next one I got, and I auditioned for it and just got cast in it. And then Emperor Pilaf actually came after that, because we recorded Dragon Ball after Dragon Ball Z, and I guess they just had seen me as Garlic Jr. and were like, Chuck does the short alien dude, so that must be Chuck's role. So I got Emperor Pilaf that way.
Awesome, that's so cool. But speaking of Dragon Ball Z, what was it like because it's clear that with the video games and everything, you've been constantly doing it over and over again, but what's it been like to actually come back with these new Dragon Ball Z movie, Battle of Gods and Resurrection of Frieza. What's it been like to, come back and like the fans' reaction and stuff and being played, on theaters? Like, how's that been for you?
Yeah, it's kind of amazing because the Resurrection of F did so well in theaters it knocked one of Miyazaki's films off the top 10 list of animated top grossing films in the theater. And it only ran for like 2 weeks, so it did huge business. And coming back to Emperor Pilaf after so many years was amazing because I thought, that guy's gone forever. I'm never going to play that character again. And they're like, wrong, he's coming back. And I was like, oh, that's awesome. We'll bring him back.
That's great. So, a little nerd question. Do you think in the movie, because they made him short or because they made him young again, do you think that was kind of like maybe a little bit of a jab or nod at GT for what they did and stuff?
Yeah, I think they were trying to set the bar straight, But they were letting GT. They were giving GT the, GT. Nobody likes that. They don't like that. That's not the thing. GT's not the thing.
Okay, so last real Dragon Ball Z question, and then we'll move on. Is it possible at some point? I know you probably can't say, but at some point, could it be theoretical that we might be getting Super at some point? Dragon Ball Super?
Yeah, no, that's got to happen, right? Although I know that nothing's been decided yet, apparently, and I have no information. But yeah, we got to be doing Super. There's no way.
Awesome. Yes, awesome. Okay, so kind of back into the technical side because you're a writer, correct? And
yes.
you've written for changing scripts from Japanese to English, correct?
Yes. Yeah, I did a lot of those.
So what's the process again, kind of with the whole voice acting thing? What's the process been like from going from Japanese to English? What's the translation process like? And what necessarily changes do you have to do to kind of change a Japanese heavy script to more fit an English audience?
Yeah, so there's the technical aspects of it, which is you have, maybe a character who goes flap, flap, flap. And then the translation says, I like to take long walks on the beach with my dog named Fido. And you're like, how do I fit that all in flap, flap, flap? So there's sort of a mental challenge of trying to keep the story the same while fitting the ideas into the mouth flaps. And then there's the other challenge, which is anything that makes sense from a Japanese cultural perspective, but doesn't make sense in the Western perspective. You have to figure out what the analog of that would be and try to shift gently over to that. So you're not ruining or changing the story, but you're making it more accessible for the American audiences.
Okay, that's interesting. I've always really wanted to know that, and it seems like an interesting, really cool, process. And
yes, it's fun.
And so, what about the writing style? Has that changed? Because I know stuff like Dragon Ball Z and some of the older stuff, especially if it's redone, have had massive script, changes and dialogues and stuff. How has that come about? Is it the translation's gotten better, or?
Yeah, the better the translation is, the more closely we will adapt the dub to be like the Japanese. The times where it goes off is when we don't have as good of translations, and then you have to, hopefully you can make it better. There's a lot of shows that you can make better just by sheer effort of writing, because it's about all those little details, the connections between the characters and how the story relates to itself and as part of the whole. Getting all those ducks in a row makes a property as good as it can be.
Okay, alrighty, that's awesome. So, what has been your favorite series to write for or direct for? And, what's been your favorite voice to voice?
Yeah, my favorite voice to voice was Hiei, because I'd never been to a convention before Hiei, so that kind of introduced me to all of this world. And then my favorite thing to write, Bakano is probably my favorite to write because of the sort of 20s slang and all the different dialects and accents. And then right now I'm writing on a show called Skip Beat, which was a Kickstarter. A bunch of voice actors kickstarted their own property, Skip Beat. And it's a really interesting, fun show. It's like Princess Jellyfish or On High School. it's it should be a really I like writing on it. It's a fun, fascinating show.
Awesome. That sounds interesting, and I've always liked. I always loved, like, for me, because I want to be a voice actor at some point. I love the fact that I love the technical side too. Like, I know it's not just all you get behind a mic and go. There's a lot more to it, and you're a voice director as well. So, as a voice director, when you're looking at new people or when you're looking at a series to voice, or dub over, what are you looking for in a person that's acting, either new, old, anything? What are you looking as a voice director for a series?
Yeah, I've mostly done sub voice directing, which is where I come in after it's already been cast, and I will fill in for people when they are when they need a director to back them up because they got to go away or out of town or something. But I know, generally speaking, you're looking for someone who naturally fits the voice of the character. And then if it's a choice between two people who naturally fit the voice of the character, and one of them's been doing it for 7 years, and the other one is just a brand new person, they usually go with the person they can rely on to get the lines done in a timely fashion and with the least amount of mistakes, so that it's an easy, fun session for them.
Okay, wow. I love it. I love it. I love it. So you've also directed a lot of movies and plays and stuff. Now, as a director, how is that different from directing an anime or, sub, like you've said, versus actually directing somebody, physically to do something? What's the difference?
Yeah, it's a huge difference, because when you're directing a film, you're coordinating a whole crew of people, and the sound and the lights and the just even just craft service and food and schedule, and then of course when you get to the actual moments, there's all the coverage with the cameras and the placement of the mics, and like then you get down to the acting portion of it. Like, can you get the actors to the place where they need to be for the scene? Whereas in voice directing, it's a more meticulous process. You're doing it line by line, but it's pretty much set up for you just to like press record and then capture what the actor is doing. The engineer does a lot of work beforehand to make that happen, but as the director, you just get to sort of step in and listen to it line by line and make sure it's right.
Okay, wow. That's cool. Because I love that. And I know, like, voice acting and acting goes, hand in hand. And what are some of the, challenges? Because you've acted on stage as well. What are some of the challenges that, you faced going from physical acting to voice acting?
Well, I'd say a lot of times people who are really good actors on stage or in film sometimes fail at the voice acting, mostly because they can't do the reactions, the yeah, like being able to like really sort of physicalize the action within your abdominal core to make sure it sounds right in the voice is probably one of the hardest things that people face. And understanding that you have to look at the scene and see where the characters are in relation to each other and where they are in the space, and then think about what would my voice, what pitch, what level, what tone would I be at in that space with that distance between you and the other character.
Okay, that's awesome. I love that. Sorry, I'm grinning ear to ear with the awesomeness
You can keep
right
grinning.
now.
It's okay.
Okay, good. Whew. So I know you've said your favorite character is Hiei, but what character? Because it still could be Hiei, but what characters had the most impact on you as a voice actor, more so than your favorite, but has impacted you the most and been like, wow, that's cool, or that's interesting, or
the playing Austria and Hetalia has opened me up to all this sort of younger crowd, because Hetalia is definitely a younger crowd show, and they're the same all over the world, and that's been fun to see that in Ireland and New Zealand and Australia and England, that all Hetalia fans are they all have the same sort of sensibility. So that's been interesting to watch as I've gone throughout my career.
that's awesome. So who or what inspired you as growing up or whatever? Like, who inspired you to either follow dreams and become an actor, or get into voice acting, or who inspired you to take the line of work that you work?
I inspired myself. No one else did it for me. There was no one I was like, I'm going to be like that guy. I always knew I was going to be an actor, and I always knew that it was up to me to be the actor and that I had to make the choices. I was always one to make early choices. Like, we got to college, and first year I did the first year, but by the second year I was like, I need an agent. I need to keep moving forward. I can't just rely on college. I want to start getting out there. And ended up having to leave college because of booking auditions and booking roles. I came back and finished later, but that turned out to be the right turning point for me in my career, like being able to start being a professional early on. And there's lots of mentors I've had in the business who, my first agent was very helpful to sort of shaping how I looked at the business. And but mostly it's myself. I have to inspire me. You got to, when you're an artist, you got to inspire yourself every day.
Okay, that's that actually kind of brings up like another question that I've had, because I know that there's a lot of people that want to get into voice acting and want to do voice acting, and so because I mean somebody could have a microphone and be doing voices and learning how to act and everything, but that's not necessarily means they're going to get out there. So like, is there anything you could kind of recommend for people looking to get out there, be noticed by an agent, to kind of actually get out there and get noticed by an agent?
Yeah, you to be noticed by an agent, you just have to make a demo and send it off to agents. There's plenty of stuff on the interwebs telling you how to make a demo for voice acting anyway. If you want to get noticed by an agent in other ways, live plays are the way to do that. Agents go to see plays. Doing independent movies, you meet other actors who have agents. Like, a lot of the way you get an agent is because you're just out there working or auditioning, and somebody's like, wow, man, you're pretty good. Do you have an agent? And you're like, no. And they're like, oh, let me introduce you to my agent. And then you get the intro, and that's usually what gets you an agent, is someone that is already with the agency recommends you to it. Or you get it through the cold, like, and passing off the tape. But if you want to be a voice actor, you can do books on tape. You can make your own stuff. You can do a YouTube series. Like, if you have something inside that makes you excited to get up every day, like, do that and figure out how to share it with the internet, and that'll be your job soon enough.
Awesome. That's great words, honestly, to live by. So you voiced Hiei, and this is kind of a question. It's a little bit of a dork question. It's kind of leading away from the technical side, but I've always kind of wondered. Now, Yu Yu Hakusho has been a huge success, in my opinion, one of my favorite fighting anime ever. And how come we haven't really gotten like a Funimation dub of any of the Yu Yu Hakusho movies besides, I think, the one?
Yeah, I don't know. I think someone else owned the rights to them, so we're stuck with whoever owned them and the voices they did, and they can't get the rights back, or they're charging too much. I don't know. I honestly don't know, but I get that question all the time, and I wish we could work something out, because it would end up selling. All the Yu Yu people would buy it, all the new movies.
Yeah, I honestly, like, yeah, there we go. I would too. I mean, Dragon Ball Z still has a whole bunch of movies. I mean, Trigun came out with a new movie a while ago, so there's a market. Yep, there's a market for this stuff. So when, kind of back to the technical side now, when somebody actually, let's say, does get the opportunity to go in and dub for an anime, when they first kind of walk in, do they have to have on their resume that they know how to do dubbing, or does like Funimation or Viz or whichever dubbing company you work for, do they just kind of throw you in and hope for the best, or do they like run down what's going on? How does that process work for an actor?
You will be expected to know what's going to happen, and there's enough panels, YouTube, and actors talking about how that happens. That if you get the chance to go into a studio to audition, you should definitely have researched exactly what's going to happen in that studio by talking to other actors who work there. They're going to give you the information you need to succeed. We're not really proprietary with stuff as actors. Some actors are, but nobody likes them. But like, most actors share with each other like their tips, their tricks, their secrets, because we want everybody to be good. We want the art form to be good.
Okay, that's really, really awesome. I love that. And I personally have one more question, but I think Rod, you had a question. just a couple quick questions. Is that
Yeah.
okay? We can. Want me to finish first? Okay. So, are there any? Okay. Besides, sorry. What would you tell people wanting? What advice would you give people that want to become voice actors or want to go into acting or writing as a whole? You know, what's just some advice that you would tell some people?
Yeah, definitely. If you want to get into voice acting, you got to be an actor and move to LA or Dallas and just be the best actor you can be. And eventually, and let people know you want to do voice acting, and eventually you'll connect with the people who know how to get you in the door for the auditions, and keep improving your craft and skill. Otherwise, you can make your own stuff, doing your own YouTube thing, and that's another way to get noticed. The writing thing, as far as writing for anime, doing scripts, that is purely in-house. They almost never go out of house, so that's people who are already acting there. And that's because they know how the scripts are put together. They know how it's supposed to be written already, so there's not a lot of training that way. But other writing, that's just something you wake up and do every day because you have to.
Okay, awesome. And then my last, question from me: are there any future projects that are coming up that you could possibly tell us that you're, excited about, both, anime-wise or voice acting-wise, or even theater or movie-wise? What's coming up for you?
Yeah, I had a movie open this weekend called Amerigeddon, which is directed by Chuck Norris's son, Mike Norris. I play the Russian bad guy. I have a couple of roles, maybe upcoming film stuff that a couple of directors have contacted me about. I have Skip Beat that I'm on the writing team for, which I was talking about before, which is awesome. There's a bunch of anime roles that I've started recording. Escaflowne is one of the ones that I'm doing, which is awesome. And that's about it for now, but it's a lot. Oh, Arbor Day, my movie's going up on Amazon in the fall probably. So it's getting closed captioned right now. And once that's done, it'll be ready to submit. So
That's awesome. That's awesome. So now, Todd, you have some stuff that you wanted to ask.
Just quick, I'm from St. Louis Community College, but paper farm.
yeah.
Print farm. You are like one of the originals of dub anime, and just with that comes a lot of fans.
Sure.
And I read that you had a major surgery.
Oh, yeah, quintuple bypass.
That's true.
Heart attack, yeah.
And the fans partly paid for some of that.
Yeah. There was about $10,000 raised, which didn't pay for the surgery. What the fans paid for was the recovery time, so that gave me 3 months to recover where I didn't have to work, and then I went back to work after 3 months.
So how did that take place? Like,
I don't know. Somebody put something online. I was out of it, man. I have no idea how it happened. I didn't know how the fans got involved, but it was awesome. Mm-hmm.
That's one long.
All right.
I have one.
Sure.
When you said you were in college and you started doing a little voice acting and then decided, yeah, I need to get out and get my agent, get going, I need to keep moving.
Right.
Did you work with like other college students on projects in college, and have any of those relationships, if there were any, like panned out, and in the future you come back and you say, oh yeah, we did this thing back in, has any of that occurred for you?
Yeah, that generally takes place. College is a place where a lot of those relationships are made, and some of them are still connections that I have to this day. Most of them are personal connections, but some of them are business connections that end up, proving fruitful later. Because, like, if you knew a dude in college and you got a choice to work with a dude you don't know or a dude you knew in college, you're like, no, I'm going to go with the guy I know. So that's one of the big bonuses of college is don't forget to network and become friends with everyone, because you never know if they're in the industry you want to be in, they're going to be, and they're dedicated and smart, then hook yourself together, help each other up. That's the way to make your business shine.
Very good. All right, that was the main question I had. Thank you.
All right, yeah, thanks, guys.
Awesome.
That was good.
Awesome. Well, thanks everybody for tuning in, and I'll be back later.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to get out of frame.
I'll be back a little bit later. Bye.